The wild turkey, one of the most charismatic birds in North America, and a bird that represents a lot of things. It represents a huge success story in conservation. It exemplifies a bird that is greatly misunderstood and has a lot of misnomers, facts about it out there. So I thought, let's do a little bit of the history of the wild turkey and some biological facts about it, and of course, just where we can see them, and it's just an intriguing bird. So I got a lot of little fact snippets about him. But first off, I was going to go the history of this bird. Do you know that there's only really two species of turkeys in the world? There's our wild turkey, which ranges from the very southern tips of southern reaches of Canada all the way through North America, except maybe in the highest elevations and in the deserts, but all the way through North America, down through Mexico into southern Mexico. And then the other species of turkey that there is on the planet is called the ocellated turkey, and it's really restricted just to the Yucatan Peninsula and a little bit in Belize and a little bit in Guatemala, but that's the only two species. So how did we get domestic turkeys? Because that's what, we just went through eating a bunch of domestic turkeys. Well, it's kind of interesting. Turkeys were, when European settlers came around in the 1500s, they came to Mexico. They found turkeys there, and they had already been domesticated by the indigenous people and for centuries. They had been raising turkeys for food production for years whenever the European settlers got there. And of course, they took the turkeys back to Europe. They were very, very well received because, one, they're big and there's a lot of meat on them, and they tasted good. And so whenever the European settlers came to the eastern North America in the settlement period, they actually brought turkeys from Europe that had been domesticated to our country that already had the wild turkeys in it. So it's kind of a convoluted way around with how the turkeys ended up here. But our wild turkeys are very, very popular game birds. They're an upland game bird that are hunted widely, and they're the second most popular game to hunt outside of deer. The wild turkeys are hunted by more people than any other game species. So we have wild turkeys, and here in Missouri, we have a tremendous population of wild turkeys. I can tell you my history. Whenever I spent some time as director of the Audubon Society of Western Pennsylvania, the turkeys there had been pretty much extirpated, and they were being reintroduced and coming back, making a good comeback in Western Pennsylvania when I was there. And we were actually getting phone calls about people complaining about wild turkeys roosting on their lawn furniture and pooping on their lawn furniture at night, and want to know how to get rid of wild turkeys. Now, you go from a bird that highly revered and loved, and hunters love them and everything, and then people complaining about them. It's amazing. Their comeback is really the most successful comeback of upland game birds. I mean, we here in the state of Missouri, we have such a strong population of wild turkeys. We have traded, as a conservation department, wild turkeys to other states for many wildlife species. We have traded turkeys for prairie chickens for introduction. We have traded turkeys for otters when we reintroduced otters back into the state of Missouri. Many different species. Turkeys here are very plentiful, as you well know. And they are an incredible game bird that can survive in woodland areas. In neighborhoods. In our neighborhood, I live out of Thousand Oaks, and we have lots of turkeys in our neighborhood. This picture here was taken in my backyard, and I'm sorry for the blinds were in the way, but I just grabbed my phone and took this picture. But then you see the male is out here strutting for these females that are underneath my bird feeder picking up sunflower seeds. The seeds fall on the ground, but the male is displaying there. And that's what they do. The females are pretty plain in appearance. They're just not quite as big as the males, but they are pretty much the same size. But the males are much flashier. The males have, let's go back to another picture, maybe this a little bit better. Here's one that's gobbling, and then you can see this long beard on the male here, and his head is very colorful red and blue. Females tend to have just more of a gray colored head, but the male can pump blood into that featherless head, and it gives him a more appealing color to the females. And they have wattles. They definitely have their wattle on them. And then of course the beard is kind of famous with hunters. Now here, you automatically think, well, if it has a beard, it has to be a male. Well, if you look at hunting regulations are bearded and beardless birds, because just like antlered and antlerless birds, there are deer the females that can have antlers. There is a genetic condition. So there are female turkeys that can have a beard. That's why you can't say all turkeys with beards are males, but most of them are. That's genetically what they're supposed to be. But there are genetic misfits out there, and this is a very long beard on this turkey. This is a beautiful shot of him gobbling. And we've all heard gobbles. Hopefully you've taken the hike in the early spring and you hear those males, but they get out and try to get an opening in the forest or an opening grassy area and then gobble to attract those females, and multiple females will come in, and he'll mate with several females generally. And so the females do every bit of the rearing. They do all the incubation. They do all the caring of the females, of the babies, the young, which are called poults. When the young turkeys are called poults, and then young males are called jakes, another name out there, but that may confuse you. But the males, after the breeding season, they form flocks of just male turkeys, and the females, take care of the young. And once the young have been hatched and raised, and they start moving around, a couple of females, usually, or 3 or 4 females, will let their broods come together and form a flock, and they're led by a couple of dominant females who lead them around and take them out and learn to eat. And their diet, turkeys eat a lot of plant matter, especially small acorns, all kind of nuts. But when they're young, when the spring and summer, when bugs are available, they do snap a lot of bugs, and bugs are very important for growing birds' bones. It is a source of calcium. So the females take them into areas, and they do what's called bugging, where the grasshoppers and things like that, they snatch them because that's very important to them. But in fall and winter, they eat a lot of nuts, different kinds of acorns and walnuts. No, I doubt walnuts, but hickory nuts, things that are small enough for them to swallow in their craw. So the turkey, they come around, they'll visit your bird feeders. I had a great picture, but I don't have in my computer, of a guy who took a picture of turkeys at his sliding glass window, and they were looking in, and he labeled it Peeping Toms, which I thought was really cool, because Toms are the name of the male turkey. So they will come up, and I think the males were seeing their reflection, and they were checking out the other males that were, quote, in their range, and want to know why they wouldn't join them, I guess. I don't know. But the turkeys are fun birds. You can feed them sunflower, you can feed them corn, they'll eat just about anything. So they're easy to attract, and if you have more of a wooded yard, it tends to be easier to attract them. But they free roam, and they're incredible birds. I mean, we love them. They are unique. They are one of the most unique birds to our area. Give us a like, give us a share. If you're on YouTube, please subscribe. Until then, come by, let's talk birds.